Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today we are finally getting some PvP action from the home kingdom that I'm in, or I should say the home server, probably more specifically, for our KVK group. We are in S2-7. This is comprised of Kingdom 65, 38, 44, 50, 68, and 75. You can see 3 normals, 2 active, and we got 1 crowded there for 68. At the moment, and this is from what I understand, is that this is essentially EIS versus everyone, from what I understand. However, I also see LSK here, so it is interesting. I'm gonna have to ask some people, like, where are we at currently? Let me see. What is the current matchup? As someone last mentioned, it was EIS versus everyone, but I see EIS, LSK together. Someone's gonna give me an answer. This is always why we ask things in world chat. It's like Googling stuff. That is BNA. All right, shout out to Ronston and Madam Slayer, who is an awesome lead, by the way, for our KPT Alliance. Definitely a kind gal, I should say. All right, let's see how this is matching up. Now, before we kind of get into some of the action, let's give you a lay of the land for what's happening here right now. So we are in currently Zone 4. And you can see here, let me do this. Will that remove, hang on, I have to go like that. No, it's not gonna do anything. I thought I'd be able to like remove some, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Right, things are always gonna end up getting adjusted. And it's not like I'm gonna be releasing this today either, right? I don't typically release PvP videos on the same day, so 24 to 48 hour delay will be totally fine. But, so with that in mind, though I wanna say, I wish there was a way that I could remove things before I start recording. Like, for example, I like how I could do this, but I wish there was a way where I could remove everything, right? So, I mean, being able to go to like Alliance resources or explore is totally fine. But you know what I wish I could do? I wish there was a way where, I guess roads are okay. Like, I wish I could do this, but something that said non-markers or a checkbox here that I could toggle for that. That would be cool. Anyways, I digress. So we're in Zone 4 here for Season 2. Where the Frost Dragon is and has yet to be captured because it hasn't opened yet. And at the moment, like I said, we have EIS and N, which is over here, I think, in purple. And then you have here, which is TLR. And they haven't really made it past anything, but I don't believe they're getting attacked at the moment. Yeah, they're not. So they're okay. So I'm curious what's up there. Are they just kind of hanging out there in EIS and everyone's just chilling? And then you got Myth, who's over here. And shout out to our old 65 K65 fam, who I believe J Derb and Group and Dark are still leading that coalition over there. So got to give some shout out and love to those guys. And then we got MCT, which is Myth's Crazy Town. So I'm not sure if what's happening here. I don't think they're attacking each other. But then we have Myth, who's up here, and you can see some fighting that's happening here, right? And who do we got here? We got Lily. Let's see if any names I remember. We got Mania, Monster. So it looks like they're doing a little bit of fighting. We got Myth and EIS. Oh, I see. Here we go. So EIS is up here. I don't know where those Myth people are from. Kind of what's going on. Wow, EIS is sending a lot. But again, this is, I mean, look how big this is right now. So you got NXS, EIS. Oh, sorry. EIS, LSK over here. And then they're fighting PXR up here on the top. Right, so again, right now, right, let's again, before we get into the action, so you have Myth, who, from my understanding, is doing some fighting up here, and I believe maybe Green is fighting, and they're going up against EIS, and then LSK, right? And then up here, you have 50W, and you have PXR, so it's 50W, PXR, Myth, and Myth's Crazy Town, or MCT, and then we have NXS and us, KPT, and then it's against EIS and LSK. So it's kind of a 6v2, right? And let me see if we can just zoom in, and then I can show you guys some of the stuff on the leaderboards while we watch some of the fighting. So if we go over here and we take a look at Alliance Power. So we got EIS, who's 6.7. I mean, again, they're the strongest by almost 2 billion, right? And then you have NXS, PXR, 50W, Myth, WM, right? So it's essentially number 2 through number 6. So those 5 alliances versus 1 and 7, and then there's us, KPT, right? I don't know if I saw TLR or 44 SE. I did see MCT. That was in there as well. Let me make sure I'm seeing these correctly. NXS, PXR, 50W, Myth. Oh, did I see WM? I don't know if I did or not. Maybe I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So anyways, that is where we're at least at the moment. Can I switch this? We'll do that. Bam. Yeah, so again, that now if that has changed, someone can let me know, right? And let me see. I think we asked over here. I'm curious what's going on. Someone's going to let me know because I know I asked this earlier. So it's, oh, see, here we go. So it's EIS, LSK, and TLR versus all others. Okay, cool. But TLR isn't in Zone 4. I didn't see them there. NXS, please go for 10 minutes. Let us have our 10 minutes of fame. Mainly I see EIS, Nonstop, Troop. I mean, yeah, it's, again, it is pretty bananas so far. Even if we just look at, we'll kind of show you some of the top dogs here, right? So you got Prayuth, School Bus from EIS, right? I mean, again, look at this. I mean, you got 4 people in the top, the top 4, we should say, right, are all part of kind of one group. And then if we look at merits, you could see here, I mean, EAS doing an absurd amount of fighting right now. NXS, still good quality numbers there for merits gained. PXR, 50W. I mean, again, if they have over 100 mil, I mean, they're doing pretty good so far. I would say even if you're kind of above like the around that 30-40 range, right, maybe closer to that 50, right, it's still good showing. But again, right, the 100 mil plus, that's where you're really getting a lot of the consistent action that's coming out. All right, now let's take a look and see what lay of that. So I want to point out NXS and company have done a pretty good job, because before they were actually at the bottom of this ramp over here, which will show you all over here, right? So again, where you see this ramp, they were actually at the bottom of the ramp as they were pushing out. And then I don't know how much traction was made northeast. I know northwest, where we ended up seeing Myth, they were about the same from what I had seen, I think, the last day or two. So it seems that they're kind of at maybe a little bit of a stalemate over there. And then on the northeast side, where we saw PXR and 50WM, if that's right, they, from, again, I can't comment too much because I can't remember where they were as of a day or two ago. But we'll keep an eye on that and see how much progression is made. But again, NXS and company are putting in some work. I even know we have a decent amount of fighters, even from the KPT Alliance, that is fighting and enjoying as well. Now, let's talk about some actual gameplay here that we're seeing. So one of the often things now, again, I love being able to kind of see. So if we zoom out one more, you can kind of see where everyone is focused, right? A lot of mage that we're seeing, predominant mage, some archers, but then a good bit of infantry, right? So you're not typically seeing too much cav, really, when we're talking about not really the open kind of war field, but typically where you have a lot of units that are condensed into kind of these theaters, you're not usually seeing a heavy usage of cav within those. Now, it doesn't mean that they can't necessarily be, but typically cav is usually going to be the most well used if you're flanking, if you're trying to maybe use it as a way to disrupt, so to speak. But again, usually flanking around, trying to pick off the stragglers, attacking supply lines, going out and hitting farmers. Again, that's usually where, when we're talking about the big open field engagements, that's usually where you're going to see that most effectively used. Very similar for how you would even go about using flying or celestials, as an example, where you're really going to be, maybe you can use them, but typically being able to use the landscape positioning for them is going to be a little bit better, in my opinion. So an example would be like, if you see PXR, right, I would probably be over here. I would have these units over here, and I would be targeting mighty forms, right? I wouldn't put myself in a position to be that close, right? The idea when you're fighting, right, when we're talking about really structured and organized warfare in the open field, is you want to try and have multiple objectives, multiple attacking points and angles when you're fighting. Now, I do like this from EIS, right? The spread here is actually not bad. And I wonder if we can go, I have to see how I have this on my left window. Let me see what I can do here. Okay, that actually doesn't look that bad. Let's full screen this. Maybe not full screen. Is that okay? Let's go up here. Okay, I mean, I guess that kind of works. Can I full screen this? Let's see. Let's go 1680. Can I do 1680 full screen? Cool. Is that looks okay, right? That doesn't look that awful. I think. I think it's not that bad. We will leave this as such, and I'm actually gonna throw up wherever my thing is here, because I love this little pen. Just have to figure out where I put it. Yeah, here we go. Cool. Let's scoot this over here. Man, you guys know I love my pen. And let's go blue. That actually might be a better color here. So what you're seeing here, where EIS is kind of spreading this line, this is decent, right? This is kind of what we're talking about when we're talking about kind of spreading your lines. You could see here that they're kind of getting pushed in now, right? They're going to be coming in this way, and they're just basically going to kind of funnel this way down the choke. This is why it's really important to try and keep yourself in a situation where you are having as much good positioning or as much kind of territory as possible, so that way you can spread out, right? The one thing you don't really want to have happen is kind of getting condensed down a thinner choke like you're seeing happening now, right? Where NXS had a little bit more of an advantage when they were around here, because they could essentially have their groups attacking EIS and LSK from over here, and then also being able to kind of push out here, but going that direction, right? Where they're going northwest. But again, EIS, LSK, I mean, again, the spread there initially wasn't bad. I actually thought it was good, decent there, where you're trying to kind of spread out as much as you can. However, I would not have any flying, for example, on this line. Why? Because you're not really maximizing flying as much as possible, right? The idea that we talk about is you should be pushing your flying here, right, where you're taking advantage of landscape, territory and terrain matchups or mismatches when you're fighting, and it also allows for you to extend the angle and also spread, if not potentially discombobulate your opponents in that, right? Just kind of giving them more targets that they have to go through and hit. So it looks like they're kind of backing off right now, and we have NXS, PXR over here. We'll see if we see any others. Looks like we're seeing a little bit of a replenish that's happening. And again, good numbers here from, yeah, I mean, they have they're really active. Yo, Humble Pie. Yeah, that's a great name, man. Great name. There's Humble at 89 mil. And then we got some of the myth guys up here. Jedark. Is that Jedark? Is that Jedark from, what's that movie, John Carter? Which is a great movie, by the way. I wish they would have came out with the remaining 2 movies in the trilogy. For those of you who didn't know, you can actually read the second and third movie summaries, like what the overall plan was for them to do, which I actually thought is pretty cool. Alliance keeps got about 3.5 minutes, and then we'll see. Oh, there's Bearded Cheyenne. I used to say Chene. I didn't know that was the way to pronounce that for a minute. That is wild. Let's see what's happening over here northeast. So we got LSK up here. Can't tell what's happening here. Oh, dang. So here we go, man. We got 50W. And I think there's one more. But wow, they are destroying this right now and not doing bad. LSK having to probably do a little bit of repositioning here. I wonder how they're getting... Is there a ramp? There's got to be a ramp. Oh, there is the ramp. So they don't even have the ramp control yet. Now, in this case... Okay, so let me tell you what I would do in this situation, right? Instead of trying to basically say, hey, we're just going to brawl this out and we're just going to like trade swings all day long, what I would do is have everyone that's here from LSK go in this direction, right? Go that way. Why do I say this? Because you want to cut off the supply line, right? I would have everyone from LSK go over here, attack, basically remove the supply line, and then and force these players to have to then attack you on 2 fronts. Force them to have to attack you here, and then either force them to come off of the tower, right, as an example, or what you do is you attack the supply line. The moment that you notice a gap in the supply line, then you go southeast and you attack the PvP units, not the ones that are building. And right, because you want to get as much of the PvP units out of the way, and then you start doing kind of blitzkriegs, right? You do kind of pick and pops, if you will, where if, for example, you're paying attention, if you notice that this is building back up, then you retreat, you come back, and you attack this, right? Because the idea is you don't want more and more units coming in. You want to attack them as they're coming in, kind of one by one, right? You want to hit them while they're trickling, not while they're not while they're coming in as an organized group. This is just kind of really playing to the advantage of 50W in this moment, right? So again, I think LSK could play this out a little bit better, and EIS, now that we're seeing some reinforcements here. But again, that really requires for you to have someone who's kind of essentially being your on-field general and directing and letting you guys know where to go. In addition, what you're seeing right now is this kind of brawling situation that's happening here, where, for example, look at this bundle, right? Instead, go like this. Spread out here, spread out here, and then now all of a sudden you have an arc at all similar distances, and then now you're able to attack, right, from all these different angles. That's really what we're talking about when we mention spreading out, having good spacing, forming those kind of crescent moon arcs. And again, doing that with your archers, your mages, your infantry, having Cav kind of picking off the outliers over here. I mean, this is actually a really great scenario to where Cav can be pretty advantageous, because you can go around here with your 3, 4, 5 units and basically pick off the units that are coming in one by one, right? Really looking for those 50% advantage matchups when it comes to on the kind of unit triangle, right? The tier triangle advantages. And same thing with flying. Flying can be utilized to where they can just kind of go right across here. They can go across the ravine. They can just park it up here, off to the side, off to the right, and they can just kind of be there with Cav. And again, I think those are some of the things we often talk about when we usually mention the pinnacle, right? Not the pinnacle, the potential of where PvP and CoD can be at, but just isn't really there yet, right? I think for the most part, what we often usually mention is that typically a lot of the quality of PvP we see is still, for the most part, summed up into murder balls, and then mages and archers basically just doing the same thing, but doing it from a range. It's like a ranged murder ball versus a close range murder ball, right? And that's really kind of what you're seeing. Now, in this situation, it doesn't really matter too much because there's only there's only a few units left. I don't really think it matters that much to have kind of good positioning and spreading, but it is something to consider. Again, 50WM wasn't doing bad. The only thing I probably would have said as well here for 50WM is that it probably would have been better for them to actually retreat overall. And I say that because the reason why you saw EIS and LSK able... Let me figure out where my line is here. So the reason why you saw them able to come up here northeast and start pushing back 50WM is because of the fact that they're not getting, they weren't being pressured here by NXS, right? So typically, if you're going to fight on 2 or 3 or however many war fronts, usually you want to do that in a coordinated way, right? NXS, while that fighting was happening and they were going for it, now bear in mind, they probably were able to get that much done because of the earlier fight that happened, right? Before EIS and LSK were able to push NXS and company back. And then, when we mentioned before we ended up finding that out, that the fighting was going on up there northeast, right? What happened? NXS was kind of pushing back here. Or they were just kind of hanging out here waiting, and that's where EIS and LSK ended up going up there to go and address the 50WM situation. So in that, 50WM could have made a decision to say, okay, look, if they're coming up, let's just pull back, let's regather ourselves, and let's do an open field fight. That would have been better for them versus actually fighting while trying to destroy the fortress, because they didn't have as much pressure being applied here on the southern front from NXS and company, right? And now they could have done that, or they just could have retreated and held the staging area either at the top or bottom of the ramp, and then waited for that next engagement to happen. Right? This is kind of like, again, when you're coordinating with multiple leads, with multiple alliances, it's good to essentially have, like, for example, if everyone's in a Discord together and you're all able to kind of join different voice calls. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you have 4 or 5 or 6 alliances that are trying to coordinate together. One of the things you would do is you would want to have, first off, you want to have as many people online as you can. Now, if you can get everyone into a staging call, that would be dope, because you can have, I think, up to like whatever it is, 1,000 or however many people in there, and then you just invite the leaders or whoever is online at the moment that can kind of be your on-field general, and you invite those people on, and then everyone else can just kind of listen in, right? You could even make the room tagged or role-based only, so only people from those alliances can join. And then what you do from there is you allow whoever, like I said, the person who's kind of issuing instructions, you can have the leader, some officers that are there, and essentially have those individuals communicating, right? Or, right, and then they're kind of issuing out orders or kind of communicating and figuring out what they need to do. Now, that can be a little bit more difficult when you have that many kind of chefs or cooks in the kitchen. Sometimes it's good if you're going to do something like that, you need to have one or two people that you can designate as kind of the primary speakers. Like, those are the ones that are kind of issuing out kind of theater of war actions. So that way, even if you're kind of doing small talk in shop, or someone's coming in and is kind of getting caught up, or they're saying, hey, this is what we're doing right now, we're telling our players to kind of stage and wait, just let us know when you guys want to do the next push, then we'll go ahead and issue something out. And that usually should look like you setting up a new marker. If you need to have a dedicated group chat where you're inviting alliance members to, if you have kind of a real-time war channel on your Discord that you're pinging so people can be aware of that, or if you have kind of a real-time orders or actions group chat in-game for your alliance that you're using as a way for people that are in-game but can't join Discord. I mean, again, there's a lot of ways that you can really work around that. Other than that, if you don't want to do it that way, then the other way that you can do it is you can have multiple voice calls within the same Discord that are set up, so that way you can have one VC or one voice channel for each alliance, and then you can have a separate voice channel that's just for kind of management leads where they're organizing and coordinating, and then they're kind of going back and forth between the management or the kind of on-field strategy voice and then going back to where their alliance is. So again, there are a couple ways that you can really go about doing this, and these are just some examples to provide. But it really can help when you're trying to coordinate with multiple alliances in the easiest and kind of quickest way possible. Obviously, doing a lot of prep can help as well. Well, this is one of the things we talk about where, you know, you kind of decide what emojis you're going to use. If someone is on the field, maybe they're running like a speed march as an example, and then whatever they say, that's kind of what you're doing. So their job really isn't to necessarily do damage. It's basically to stay alive so they can kind of issue out commands on the field. So they kind of might always be around the middle of the pack, just issuing. While maybe their other units are actually going out and attacking. Right, there's creative ways that you can really go about doing this. However, now let's actually, I'm curious, right, because one of the things I usually like to talk about a lot is when we're on the field and we're watching, right, who are people really running, right? And you're seeing right now a lot of, what we got, Lilia usually. We got a Kanara over here with Nico. Got some Lilia, some Waldeers. We got an Atheist, looks like, oh gosh, why can't I remember the Hawk girl right now? I think that was the, I don't know, it was either that or maybe Frhagar, it could have been, that I'm just so blind. Yeah, there we go, so there's Syndra and Frhagar, I think we have that there. Oh gosh, geez, that Sword Art and Divine Punishment, that was sick! Right there, just so much damage went out. Oh gosh, that was so much negative purple. PXR, NXS doing some push outs now. Yeah, yes, push back. We got NXS and PXR. Ooh, wow, so there must be another ramp over here. Oh no, they actually just have some people up here. Okay, so there's just some cities that are up here, which this is actually kind of a cool, I really kind of like this strategy that we've been seeing where you'll have alliances that will build flags as close as they can to the cliff, just so they can TP cities on top of the cliff. That way they can avoid having to go through the ramp, right? I really love this, that we're kind of seeing different creative approaches and ways to go about doing this. 50W, right back in the game. Now, I want to point out, something I would probably do if I was 50W, and this is just me, I would probably just start attacking their units. Right? I would say, look, let's dedicate one unit. That's going to be the unit we use to destroy the fortress. The other units we're just going to send deep. We're going to try and get 20, 30 units out, and we're just going to start applying pressure. That's what I would do in this case, because the most important thing that they need to be able to do is to alleviate pressure for PXR, NXS, and others, so that way they can back up EIS and LSK a little bit more, and then obviously TLR, you know, wherever they may be. Now, and once they do that, once you're able to get to a position where you can have these guys. Now, in this situation, I would push out more. If you're NXS and you're PXR, I would push out all the way here. This is an opportunity that NXS and PXR have, but they're just not doing it right now, right? So an example of this would be if EIS is already right here, then NXS and PXR should be like this. And then that way you're attacking here, attacking here, attacking here, attacking here, attacking here, and attacking here. And also, by spreading out, you're reducing the amount of AoE damage that you're taking, therefore being able to inflict a lot more on your opponents. Same thing we talk about, right, with flying units. Do not have flying units really be in the fold. Now, if it's just a complete open field where it's all kind of one level and you're not having any kind of height adjustments that are happening because you're on like the level, you're on the ground floor, the first or the second level, then that's different. But in this situation, I would be having flying units on the side. I'd even be trying to push Cav through and then attacking some back lines just to, again, switch up focus. These are things that would be good to do, right? Hanging out here in this thin choke point really only gives more of an advantage to the EIS LSK group because they're able to spread out, even if it's not that great right now. And again, like we talk about, once you get closer, once you start going deeper into a thinner choke point, the amount that you can spread out is really going to lessen. Now, you could do something like a layering, right? Where an example would be you could have like archer, mage, right? Something like that. Or something different where you're kind of layering it. So it's still kind of acting as the same thing, but you're just spreading out a little bit more. Now, that could be a little more difficult to do because it does require a lot more organization and really coordination in general. And then the downside of it is that if you layer like that, you're also splitting up how much DPS you can really hit because your units are not necessarily at the front line, but you're kind of reducing the amount of AoE that you can take as well from your opponents. So it is, again, it is a little bit of a toss-up, right, on how well that could work or not. It would be cool to see because I'd be interested myself, but that's just a me thing. So here you go, right, PXR. Now, this is okay to do. However, this is really only okay to do if these units are engaged in fighting already, right? Because you don't want to be engaging them where they're moving. You want to engage them when they're already attacking, or if you have enough units where you can create good ratio advantages, right? So you're doing a 3v1, a 4v2, a 4v1, a 5v2, a 5v1. That's really what you're looking for in those cases. Yeah, so NXX, PXR, able to kind of push out here. Doesn't look like they're getting any resistance up here, so they're still able to keep removing this. This isn't bad right now, 343. I mean, again, if you're not seeing a lot of presence here from LSK, I mean, I still would argue being able to apply more pressure, right? I would try and still get more units over here, try and control the top of the ramp, apply pressure from the second level here, or the third level, if you will, and again, try to alleviate for NXS and PXR. I think NXS and PXR do have a little bit more potential than what we're seeing so far when it comes to them being able to push out from EIS and LSK. Now, if we're talking about the opposite side of it, with EIS and LSK, really, in their situation, I would really just commit, right? Kind of on one side or the other. So, for example, if they're going to regather troops, right? Commit to going into PXR and NXS, even if you have to go into the territory a bit. Just push as much as you can to where you're not going too deep, right? So I would say push to maybe where you get here first, right? Do attacking. And then maybe if your units are still withdrawing, you push a little more, right? Not too far, but you push a little bit more if you need to do a little more attacking. And then at that point, once you push them back far enough, then switch it up. Then send all of your units up the ramp, right? Attack the units at the ramp, and then go ahead and push up over here to the CF. Because you have to think about it like this, right? If you have no units over here, right, is NXS and PXR going to just chase down here? No, they'll probably chase behind, right? But the idea is that you're at least being able to get some of the units off of LSK, right? So it's really more delaying unless you feel like LSK is going to be able to really just kind of swing things back around. Again, bear in mind, this is just one way to go about doing it. If you have enough units on the field, of course, you could swap. You could say, hey, look, we'll send a third of our forces here. We'll keep the other 2/3 here fighting on the NXS PXR front. Again, there are a couple ways you can do it, but really, and again, maybe it turns around. Maybe they just get more activity that's coming on. I mean, I'm sure they've been fighting for a really long time, too, as well. And now you can kind of see EIS and LSK kind of doing a little bit of what we just talked about, right? Where they're pushing it a little bit more, really trying to do as much damage as possible. And you can't really spread out that much here, right? However, if you're talking on the other side, NXS and PXR could actually spread out. And I guess this is what we're talking about. They're deciding to kind of do this ranged murder ball. Instead of doing the ranged murder ball, go here. There you go. Spread out all along here. Now you're attacking from here, 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 and here, right? If you have flying, you can even put your flying here. Maybe not that close, right? Maybe somewhere like here, right? Because you obviously want to be at max range, and then put some units up here on the ridge. I mean, again, you have options. But again, what it really requires is the coordination. And now you're seeing EIS LSK basically doing what I just said, which is, again, right, going in a little bit here, so that way you can put as much pressure on your opponents as possible to try and get as many kills as possible. And keep in mind, even if you're going behind some of these cities, even if they send units out, it's only going to be kind of in a trickling effect, right? Now, if let's say you go, I don't know if I want to go this deep, as an example. I think they would need more units there. But going to about here isn't bad. Also, even going here where they can use that wider spacing actually wouldn't be bad either for them. So this isn't that bad. However, now the important part is that you want to be kind of focusing on units one by one so you can make sure that you're taking advantage of those matchups, right? I don't know if I would be overextending as much as we're seeing right now, right? You're kind of seeing some of the EIS players that, in my opinion, kind of when you're doing this one by one thing, or you're kind of doing the trickle effect with how you're spacing your attack, sometimes that isn't really going to be the most advantageous for you because it really allows for your opponents to kind of focus on the outliers or those units that are overextending. So just something to keep in mind. It's a lot better to kind of keep your line in formation and then try to move together as a unit. Now, it doesn't mean that it's always going to be perfect, right? Again, we do not have any kind of illusions of something like that, where the epitome of what I'm talking about is going to be done. But just being cognizant of that when you're out in the field. And yeah, you're seeing it right now, man. Look at this. I mean, you got Thea Atheists, we got a lot of Lilias, we got some Walder Velns, we got some Velns, we got some Kanara Hosks, Kanara Nico. I think I saw a Nico Hosk earlier. I don't know what that Nico's running right now. Again, a lot of Lilias, Waldirs, Nico primaries, got a Veln primary, Guan, Thea primary. I mean, a lot. Even if we zoom out one real quick, you'll see mages predominantly being ran. You got some archers, you got some calves, you got some infantry mixed in, but really, I mean, this is a heavy, heavy mage meta right now that we've been seeing, and for a while. Man, I would really love to see someone who's just running 5 archers and just like seeing how that, just running 5 pure physical DPS archers and just see how, like, again, how are they utilizing that? Are they running speed, not speed? Yeah, if anyone runs pure 5 archers, I don't even know if you can, because I don't know if there's enough now I'm thinking about it. I have to count this off. Who do I have here? I got Nico Kanara for marksman. Guan. Oh, why am I forgetting right now? Not Vel, not Husk. Marksman. Oh, sorry, there we go. Yeah, Sindrian, Frager. So yeah, I guess you could. If you probably just have to run Guan, though. Yeah, so you could. You just have to run Guan as the 5th. If you want to do that, then you'd have to pair the other ones with other secondaries if you wanted to run full 5 marksman, but you could. I guess technically you could still do it with another legendary, but if you wanted to run a primary for each, you could. You just would have to pair different. Where are we at? Man, we're at 34 minutes right now. I mean, this has been pretty much nonstop action. So this has been awesome to watch so far. As always, you guys know I love watching PvP in CoD, regardless of what level of PvP we're watching or the quality of the PvP. Again, I just love, I just enjoy. I really do. I love the ranged fighting. I love the on-field skill usage, on-field support structures being built, different height elevation being used. The one thing that we've often talked about is I'd love to see something, for example, where you see anyone who's on an elevation get like a 5% range increase. Not anything super intense. 10% to me feels like it might be a little bit too much on the range, so I'm not sure, but somewhere something tells me like plus or minus 5% would be really awesome, where if you're on an elevation you have a little bit farther range. Like, that seems cool to me if they eventually add something like that in. Now again, I probably should say maybe 3 to 5%, so it's a little bit more conservative because, you know, again, you may not want 5%, might be OP. I don't know, but something like that would be really cool to see if they did. Yeah. All right. That, I think, is going to be it for us. I really want to keep watching, but for the sake of me trying to kind of keep to my 20 to 30-minute PvP videos, I'm going to go ahead and end it now. I want to hear what you guys have to say, though. So if you're watching from another server, you're enjoying the PvP, let me know what you think. Your thoughts on any of my commentary, along with if you are in S2-7, how has the fighting been going? Have you been enjoying it? Because for me, when I see that we kind of have flags that are at about the halfway point and we're seeing constant back and forth fighting like we're seeing now, this is what I want to see, right? I love seeing, again, even though the powers aren't necessarily equal when you're kind of talking one-to-ones, but when you're talking kind of the overall 6v2, maybe it is a little bit closer in a fairish-er matchup. That's what I like seeing. PvP for as long as humanly possible, not just kind of these quick one-and-dones where you basically can tell where it's going after a day or two of PvP. So, man, keep on keeping on. Love watching. Shout-outs to the homies and the home grillies. And that's going to do it for me. As always, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Until next time, I will catch you later.